All right. Do I hear a motion to adopt the resolution supporting and encouraging respect and collaboration in the Lexington District One family?
Madam Chair, I move that the board adopt the board resolution supporting and encouraging respect and collaboration in the Lexington District One family. And I'd like to read it out, if I may, for the minutes.
Please do.
So this is a resolution that the board's considering after feedback from many in our community, as well as a lot of people in this room. And it reads as follows: Lexington County School District 1 Board Resolution supporting and encouraging respect and collaboration in the Lexington District 1 family. We, the undersigned members of Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees, pass the following resolution to our students, parents, staff, community, and ourselves. Whereas the novel coronavirus has caused significant interruption in traditional instruction models, requiring significant and often unexpected and immediate adjustments by our students and faculty. And whereas the COVID-19 virus has caused significant interruption in extracurricular activities, requiring significant and often unexpected and immediate adjustments by our students and coaches leaders. And whereas the COVID-19 virus has caused significant emotional and physical stress and harm to our students, families, faculty, staff, and leadership teams. And whereas the COVID-19 virus has led to conflict within our families, our schools, our district, and our community. And whereas the Lexington District 1 continues to offer a state-of-the-art, world-class education that attracts both students and educators to the area. And whereas this strong educational offering of Lexington District 1 results in residential and business growth in its attendance area. Therefore, be it resolved that we, as undersigned members of the Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees, shall focus on governance and not management of Lexington District 1 operations, acting as an advocate and ambassador for the district. Respect the office of the superintendent and defer day-to-day operations to the office of the superintendent and senior leadership team. And thirdly, hold each other accountable when and if we do not conduct ourselves accordingly. And be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of the Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees, ask our staff to continue to focus on closing any instructional gaps caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and focus on the emotional well-being of our students. And be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of the Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees, ask our parents and caregivers to communicate to our teachers, coaches, and staff any academic and or emotional needs of their children. And secondly, be patient with their teachers as they continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic and associated adjustments. And be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of the Lexington County School District 1 Board of Trustees, ask our community to, one, communicate with Lexington District 1 teachers, staff, and administration their appreciation for their daily work, and two, offer grace to school and district administrators as they navigate an ever-changing landscape. And finally, be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of the Lexington County District 1 Board of Trustees, remind our students, our parents, our staff, our communities, and ourselves that we are one family. We are one family and community, working together to educate our future leaders, essential workers, business owners, craftsmen, teachers and coaches, law enforcement, and emergency workers, as well as military personnel.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Dr. Powers, would you like to just provide a little background on this?
Yeah, so anytime there's uncertainty and change, it's easy to be critical. Where true leadership, I think, evolves is when you work through difficult decisions and problems to come up with the best answer. And so our community has really been torn apart by the COVID pandemic. There's been a lot of discussion in this room and other forums about what we should and should not do. But resoundingly, what I hear when I visit and interact with the community members is they are very pleased with how we've handled this pandemic. And so I think the narrative needs to be reset. I know many of us as board members have gotten feedback in that area. And I, for one, as a board member, want to continue to focus on all the things that are good in Lexington 1. Just like any family, you have issues and problems with a family, and you work through that. But this board, this seat here is the superintendent and that leadership team and those principals and teachers, we need to give them the respect that they've earned. When we don't do that, we undermine their roles and this district. And so we as a board are going to stand up for that.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Would anyone else like to speak to the resolution?
Yeah, I just have a question. Is there anyone up here that didn't have an opportunity to give input before this went on the agenda? So everyone had a chance to give their feedback on this. Well, I find it ironic that a resolution encouraging collaboration included everyone except myself. Had I been asked to provide feedback, I would have suggested a few things. So, Dr. Guyton, if you'll pass those down, everybody can have a copy. So the General Assembly defines a resolution as an expression that affects the action of the body and its members. This resolution includes a call to action from the community, caregivers, students, parents, and staff, but not once does it mention what this board will do for them. We are not ambassadors of Lexington One. It is not our job to advocate for the district. It is our job to advocate for students and champion the mission of public education. Teachers have the PSTA, SCEA, SC for Ed. School boards have the School Boards Association. Superintendents have the Association of School Administrators. Support staff members can also join the SCEA. But the students, they have us. They are depending on us to provide the resources, to fill the gaps, and ensure that those resources are distributed equitably. Provide them with safe schools. Ensure that we are meeting the needs of the teachers so that those teachers can in turn focus on their students' well-being. Those same students, along with the community members, caregivers, parents, teachers, and staff mentioned here, are depending on us to give them a seat at the table, listen when they speak, provide a safe, inviting place for them to voice their concerns. In addition, nowhere in this resolution is there a call to action from our superintendent. It does, however, outline what we will do for him. We don't work for the superintendent. He works for us. And based on the terms of his contract, he has the right to attend board meetings and provide recommendations on each agenda item. So if you would just take a look at the proposed changes that I've passed out. It just includes, whereas, therefore be it resolved that what we will do as the Board of Trustees, focus on governance and respect the superintendent. I'm asking the same of him. Be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of Lexington County School District One Board of Trustees, ask the superintendent to focus on management, not governance, of Lexington District One operations, acting as Chief Executive Officer for the board. 2, respect the Board of Trustees and make decisions in line with board policy. 3, deal with the board as a whole rather than as individual members and be held accountable when and if he does not conduct himself accordingly. And up in the first paragraph, as part of the first bullet point, where it says focus on governance and not management of Lexington District 1 operations, acting as an advocate. Instead of for the district, we need to put for the students in public education. Nowhere, and I've went through state law, School Boards Association manuals, our policies, nowhere can I find that school boards act as advocates for their school district, because that's not the job of school boards. Further down, be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of Lexington District 1, instead of asking our staff to do things, I've put in there in front of that pledge to provide the needed resources so that staff can continue to focus on closing any instructional gaps. A couple paragraphs further down, where it says we ask our community to, in front of that I have added pledge to be active in our schools and show, instead of communicate with, show our teachers, staff, and administration our appreciation for their daily work. And in the last paragraph.
Ms. Garris, does showing administration your appreciation for their daily work apply to you as a board member as well? Because we just included in the minutes a document that you submitted that does not show appreciation to our administration.
And how is that?
I'm just curious as to, I think actually some of your suggestions here are very good. The paragraph about the superintendent, I think that is in his contract and in our policies, and this resolution is probably not the place for that. I do have some concerns with some of the language that you've added here. Are you making a motion to amend the resolution?
I am, but I'd like to know how you said I included a document that does not show appreciation for our staff. What would that be?
An email that was included in the minutes from our last meeting at your request. The tone of that email is not consistent with some of the language that you've added here. Additionally, I would like to add that I think the intent in this resolution of the board being an ambassadors for the district is that, as we all know, when the board votes on something, we then speak as one on the board's decision. And that means that we go out in the community and we represent what the board's decision is, not what our individual feelings about what the board's decision was. And so as an ambassador, I feel like it's our responsibility to, Lexington One is a great school district. And I will be happy to talk to anybody all day, every day about how great Lexington One is. I talked to board chairs from 4 other school districts yesterday, and they're like, well, you know, Lexington One, you know, y'all really don't have the situation because y'all do this so well or you do that so well. And so I feel like that is our role as school board members being ambassadors. I agree that we are supposed to advocate for students, but I also think that that we are elected leaders are forward facing, which means we are leaders for this district, and we are representing at all times this district. And to me, that's a burden and a responsibility to be not you know, Pollyannas, but to really represent all the good that our district does all day, every day, all the good that our administration does every day, to respect the work that they do and to acknowledge that sometimes we don't agree with how they did something, but they have very good reasons for doing what they did. And so I do struggle with some of these changes. And so I don't know if you want to, Dr. Powers, I mean, we can.
I think process-wise, she needs to make a motion to consider changes, and then the board has to make a decision on that. And then if it's supported, then we'll have to go through each change and discuss it with the motion.
Ms. Garris, what is your pleasure?
Well, first of all, before we do that, I'd still like for you to expand upon, since this is going to be part of the public record, the tone of my email and how that does not show appreciation for our staff. What exactly in there are you talking about?
And we can, I can share that with you at another time. I think you know the email that I'm speaking of.
I know
It's now in
exactly.
the minutes.
I asked for it to be included in the minutes, but I don't believe that there is any tone in there. The problem with this board is that the truth, y'all just don't want to hear it. I mean, the tone of the email wasn't harsh, critical, unappreciative at all. It was simply saying that it is our job to hold the superintendent accountable, which is, and I can't believe, I mean, I wish I'd gotten the first copy of this where it actually said that we are going to act as an advocate and ambassador for the superintendent before someone changed that. I mean, that tells you how out of touch with their role that this board is. They don't even understand what it is they're supposed to be doing.
But I mean, as a, you know, I think any employer. Okay. Because this would have been a really good time for a fire drill. No, no, I mean, I think as you know, any employer is an advocate for their employees at all times. I mean, you know, when you discipline an employee or you have trouble with their performance, you do that in a one-on-one setting, not in the public. And I think that as board members, yes, the superintendent is our one employee, but I think it's our responsibility to. Because our job is to support and provide the tools that the superintendent needs to do their job, and then I think our role is to support the work that they do because that benefits our district.
Okay, but there comes a time we have to hold someone accountable, and that's when we have in here that we are going to hold each other accountable, but nowhere does it say that we're going to hold the superintendent accountable.
But we do that through his annual review.
But we don't. It doesn't happen that way because he does his own evaluation. So, and the way you mentioned here, where you said we don't need to put these things in here because, you know, this is part of his evaluation or whatever. Well, the things listed here are part of policy, where it says hold each other accountable when we do not conduct ourselves accordingly. How do we do that? Do we censure a member? Do we email each other and say you're not behaving? Or do we just let the madness continue? I'd like some clarification on some of this before I vote to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there? Ms. Garris, did you want to make a motion for this, or are we just going to proceed with the motion that we have?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I make a motion to amend the resolution as presented by Jada.
Is there a second?
So, just for clarification, I do think the spirit of this is great, and I think it's a good start. Out of respect to one of our board members who didn't have the opportunity to contribute like the rest of us did, I'll second.
All right. Okay, so do we want to, all right, we have a motion to amend, are we going, do you want to submit this?
So the motion isn't to like amend and accept all these changes, it's to us talk, right?
The motion, we've already made a motion to consider the resolution. Ms. Garris has now made a motion to amend it. I think you're seconding that.
Amending it to
Yes,
these
to
exact
consider,
changes?
consider
To
amendment,
consider.
an amendment, to the current resolution.
And when you second it, it opens it up for discussion.
Opens it up for discussion.
Right, and then
Okay.
the vote happens.
But I think we've had the discussion, so, about considering an amendment to the resolution. So I think you're seconding the motion to amend, to amend the
Open
resolution.
it up for discussion. Yes.
Okay. A motion has been made to open discussion on the proposed amendment.
To amend the proposed amendment, I think is Ms. Garris's motion that Ms. Henson seconding.
I don't know what exactly we need to say. All I'm trying to say is I would love for us to have the opportunity to talk through her suggestions, since this is, I guess, her opportunity to provide feedback.
Madam Chair, in the interest of time, I'd like to make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
I think we already have a motion on the table, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Garris, would you consider withdrawing your motion to amend, and let's table the resolution until September? Can we do that instead?
Yes, I
Are
withdraw
you-
my motion to amend.
Ms. Henson, are you okay with that?
Yes,
With
that's fine. I do think the timing of this at the beginning of a school year would be a nice thing, but that's fine.
Dr. Guyton, do you have thoughts?
Dr. Powers, thank you for the resolution here. You know, eventually, we do have to define ourselves as a board. I'll be honest, here lately, I've had a very difficult time understanding what my place is as a board member. I'm told what to do by the governor. In some counties, they're told what to do by the city. In some towns, they're told by what to do by the county. And what you're finding is you're finding local leadership. So if a parent has a concern about their child being bullied at school, or they have a concern about the parking lot or a parking situation, they don't pick up the phone and call Henry McMaster. They don't pick up the phone and typically call one of their legislators. They pick up the phone and call their locally elected board official to help navigate those waters. We're the first point of contact for them, and sometimes the only point of contact. And I'll be honest, what we're seeing play out both locally, across the state, across the nation, it kind of feels like a war on school boards. So eventually, we have to define ourselves as a school board. This is a new board. I think this is a great conversation starter, Dr. Powers. I thank you for it. I think we have to begin the conversation as to where do we find ourselves as a school board. What are the things that we value? We know what they are on the wall back there. But on a day-to-day living a life perspective, what does that look like? And so I think there is more conversation that occurs. And I think this honestly falls in line with the new business as we look at policy BBAA-R. I think the timing of your resolution in conjunction with our first reading of an additional policy could not come at a better time, especially in the state in which we find ourselves. if it's the will of the board to table this for additional discussion, feedback that can be given to Dr. Powers for his consideration. In my opinion, he is the author of this, and so therefore, if he's going to make changes to that recommendation, then he should be the author of that, and we should pass and communicate that along to him.
So what does that look like? So does that mean we table it and then throughout the next month we email ideas? Or do we put it as an agenda item and we talk about it next time?
I think from a process perspective, if the vote were to table, then it would table to the next board meeting. During that time, changes could be offered up to Dr. Powers. He would then provide back any revisions, if any, and then we would vote on it, vote it up or vote it down at the next board meeting. But I think the spirit has to be taken into consideration, the spirit of defining ourselves as a board, and to significantly appreciate the worst 18 months we have been through, and probably the next 2 or 3 months of difficult times ahead.
Well, and I think, Dr. Guyton, I think that is a wise word, because I do think that the spirit and intent of this resolution is to a little bit of a reset, as Dr. Powers said, a unity builder. You know, we're all, you know, I could say we've never done this before, but we've been doing this for 18 months now. But the pandemic has really, you know, every day is another challenge and another new thing. I mean, you know, we thought we were going to be starting this school year, you know, free and easy, and it's actually crazier than it's been for an entire 18 months. And we're all in this together. And you know, and Ms. Garris, I apologize that you didn't see this in advance.
But everyone else had the opportunity to see it and provide feedback before it came out in the board packet.
And I apologize for that.
So who, I mean, did you send that out to everyone? Is that how that worked? No, Dr. Powers did. Okay, so is there a reason that you didn't send it to me?
I received feedback from board members that I'm in dialogue with.
Okay.
And I like the idea of starting the year with this message of unity. I mean, I don't want to make this a protracted thing, but if we could, maybe this is a good exercise in team building for our board right now at this minute to work through this and make it something that we can pass tonight. I mean, but I think that's going to take all of us giving a little bit on our own little piece of turf, and maybe making this something that is important for our district and for our staff and our community to hear us as one voice. I don't think they often hear us in one voice. Board, are you okay with spending about 5 minutes working through this so that we can make this,
Yes.
do this tonight?
I got all night.
What?
Yep.
Okay,
Came prepared.
so,
I think we should go ahead.
okay, so we have a motion on the table to consider these amendments.
Correct.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Everybody raise your hand that you. To consider
about
these
it.
as amendments.
And not table it.
I don't want to vote. All right, the motion carries. All right, so, and we're gonna do this quickly, all right, and respectfully and kindly. Okay, so I think that the first part is fine, and we're going to get down to the statement about advocate and ambassador. I would like to suggest that we make it as an advocate for students in public education and ambassador for our district. Can we split the difference on that? Ms. Garris, are you
Yes.
okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Advocate for our students and ambassador for district, okay? In the large red paragraph, I really do feel like these points are in our policy and in the Dr. Little's contract. And this is, I don't feel like this is the place for that.
But I don't feel like this is the place for the whole first paragraph then, because that is part of our policy as well. That's what I'm saying, like, you can't put things on the board that are a policy and then say, but we're not gonna expect the same of the superintendent because it's part of his contract and part of policy. Like, we are required to follow policy, but he's not. And all of these things came straight out of board policy. So the focus on management is policy BDD. Respect the Board of Trustees is, let me actually pull those notes and I'll tell you exactly where they came from. Okay, so the focus on management, I took that out of the first line of Brent's resolution and just copied it down here. So that's a quote. In acting as chief executive officer of the board, that is part of his contract, word for word, verbatim. Respect the Board of Trustees. Those words came from Brent's resolution. Make decisions in line with board policy is policy BDD. Deal with the board as a whole rather than as individual members. That is word for word out of policy BDD. Be held accountable when and if he does not conduct himself accordingly. That is part of Brent's resolution, and it's just
Okay.
changed from.
Okay, Ms. Henson, do you have any suggestions for this section?
I have difficulty with the paragraph in red. And the difficulty being that we have a contractual relationship that exists with Dr. Little. And therefore, I think anything that calls into question to the potential for any form of interpretation, I would be very wary about. And therefore, any resolution we pass as a collective board that may have employment implications, I do have trouble with that. I think that sets us up for just difficult times ahead. And so I would not be in favor of the paragraph in red, particularly and to your point, Ms. Garris, you know, particularly in the point when we do have board policies that exist and those kind of things. And I agree with Ms. Green that this needs to be a forward-looking document. And so I would not be in favor of the paragraph in red.
All right. Can we strike the paragraph in red?
If that moves us forward. I'm okay if that moves us forward. I understand what Dr. Guyton is saying about it being a contractual relationship, although I disagree because I've actually included part of his contract in there. You know where it says he acts as chief executive officer of the board, right? But I understand what Dr. Guyton is saying.
I think that's a valid concern.
Sometimes when you restate and restate and restate it, it opens yourself up for difficulties.
Yeah. I do, Ms. Garris, I like the way you changed the next paragraph, the pledge to provide the needed resources so that the staff can continue. I think that's an appropriate. Does anyone else have?
Because it's us as the board saying what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
As that.
Right, that's how I've felt working on this whole thing is instead of us asking something of others, we need to say what we're going to do for them. That's kind of the whole theme behind all of this.
Okay, so we'll leave that change.
The blue.
The blue. Okay.
Yes, I brought you a copy. There you go.
Okay, and then,
Well, let me ask you, Dr. Bowers, do you have any difficulty with the remainder in blue?
The issue with pledge to provide the needed resources, again, we've got to go through a budget reconciliation. So again, needed resources can be difficult. And I think we do that through our annual budget process. Because quite frankly, we don't have enough resources to meet all the asked needs. We just talked about how the bond referendum, we had to slim down because, again, the millage would be too high. So I think that puts the board at risk because we can't meet all the, I mean, our goal is to meet resources, and we do that every year through a budget process, but we can't pledge to meet all the resources. I would not adopt the blue.
What if we were to eliminate the, and you were to say needed resources? Because that, Obviously, that's our desire. Our desire is always to provide all the resources we can to the family of Lexington One. And so makes it sound as if it's very terminal and all-encompassing. And so if we were to eliminate pledge to provide needed resources so that staff can continue.
Yeah, the intent of that was a call to arms for our staff to essentially close all instructional gaps and meet the emotional well-being. It wasn't to put the board,
Right.
to articulate the board already does, which is allocate resources. based
With,
upon-
with those subpoints, focusing on
That's
closing
fine.
the institutional, instructional gaps and emotional well-being.
I mean, that's why we got COVID money and ESSER money as well, so that we could close instructional gaps. So we have millions of dollars. So we actually have the needed resources to closing instructional
But I
gaps.
think
Yeah.
this point in the resolution is not about resources, it's about focusing on student needs.
Right.
And each bucket is asking the different team members. So we started with the board, so we always hold ourselves accountable. Then we're asking our staff, and then our parents, and then our community. We're asking for accountability at all those different levels.
So what
So-
if we say,
And the staff includes
We-
the superintendent, for the record, sorry.
yeah, so what if we say, Board of Trustees, ask our staff to continue to focus on closing, because that's saying we have the confidence that you're doing this,
Yeah,
but
that's better.
continue, so we're taking part of both of yours,
I think that's ask our staff to continue.
to continue to focus on closing any instructional gaps
I like
caused by
that.
COVID.
But I really like that we say we're going to provide them the resources, because we do that by setting budget priorities, and we have millions and millions and millions in COVID money. So for us to not pledge to provide those resources to them so that they can close instructional gaps,
Right, I think
When
what
we
he was saying
accepted the
is
money,
that
we
we
pledged
do.
that.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I interrupt you.
I think what he was saying was that we do already do that through the budget process.
right, so we've pledged that money,
Right, so.
and we're going to provide those resources.
That's done, and so
Right.
what this is saying is, through this resolution, we are asking our staff to continue to.
Well, and we just had a prime example with what Dr. Clamp just presented, a prime example of the fact that we lose 100 students a year to a dropout. That should be a frightening statistic to us. But it did not cost us any more money to close that instructional gap, and at least as proposed. So, yeah, I mean, I think your point, Ms. Henson, is well taken with the revisions you offered up.
Yeah. So that would statement would be it further resolved that we, as undersigned members of the Lexington County School District One Board of Trustees, ask our staff to continue to focus on those two bullet points. Because I take Dr. Power's point that this is the call to action for staff. And really, their role in this is to fulfill the mission that we have, which is to close the achievement gap.
And the same with the next bullet down. Again, this is a call to our community to essentially celebrate the work that's happening in this district. It's not another pledge for us as a school board. We're already active in our schools.
So, to pull from all of it, could we say something like, Board of Trustees, ask our community to be active in our schools by communicating with Lexington, and then following with Dr. Power's bullets? So really, we're just taking the word pledge out and moving the blue part to the end.
Yeah, so ask
So
our
we're
community to be active in our
taking both of
schools
your-
by,
Right. Board of Trustees, ask our community to be active in our schools by communicating with Lexington District One teachers, et
It's
cetera,
a
et
call to
cetera.
the community. Again, that's the point of that, is to ask our community to rally around our schools.
So it's using all of the words, but just,
Well, I think the intent by Ms. Garris, or Jada, excuse me, was to hold the board accountable to pledge to be active in our schools, which we already do.
well, we're part of the community.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a community member, you're a community member. So we, along with our community, will be active in schools by communicating with.
yeah.
Final
Yay.
paragraph? Any difficulties?
Which paragraph? The last one?
So,
I always like servant leadership. I think that is a good term. Again, you know, we can certainly have a conversation about it, but, you know, I think it is a good term to use with regard to the board.
In the last paragraph,
Yes.
the term pledge to?
Yeah, I don't like pledge to there, because the intent of this sentence is that all of us together are one family, and all of us are gonna partner together with this. It's not the board forging ahead, we can only do this with everybody doing it together. I think that's what Dr. Power's intent was in that statement.
But the first line of this says, "We, the undersigned members of the Board of Trustees, pass the following resolutions to our students, parents, staff, community, and ourselves." So we are saying this is the action we're taking. This is what we are going to do.
No, because a resolution is not an action document. It's more of it's a softer, more of a, it's a statement of support and encouragement. Resolutions are not,
Right, it's an
pledges.
expression that affects the action of the body, right? I mean, that's how,
well, but legislative resolutions are different than like this sort of this is not
right.
a legal, this is not, we're not enacting a policy. We're voicing our support for our community and encouraging our community to get in this boat with us, because we'll get across quicker if we're all rowing together. And I think that that's the intent of this document. So,
so I would leave the last paragraph unchanged.
I mean, I like that we will model servant leadership by being active in
Yeah,
our community.
that's fine. But
Yeah.
So, but we did put the being active in the section above. So that would be repeating being active.
that's true. And how about we will model servant leadership? Just leave it at that.
One of them is be active in our schools, I think that paragraph for the end. Yeah, our schools, and the last one says be active in our
But I
community.
think, I mean, and,
You're right,
I mean, we're all active in our community. We all do that already. So, but I'm fine with that statement.
So we have a completed document?
What is the? Yes,
While you're looking for whatever you're looking for, do you want me to start reading that to them?
Can we suspend the vote and allow them to print
yes.
the document and then come back at the very end?
That's the fastest one.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Do we want to?
Yeah, I'll motion to suspend.
Well, I think Tracy's asking just to clarify the
Yes.
changes.
Okay, so go ahead, Ms. Halliday. I don't think your microphone is on.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not close enough. The paragraph, be it resolved as undersigned members of the Board of Trustees shall focus on government, not management. Did we change that paragraph?
Yes, it's going to be focus on governance and not management of the Lexington District One operations, acting as an advocate for students in public education and an ambassador for the district.
Okay, all right. The red paragraph comes out. Okay, and then the Board of Trustees, I think we're leaving that.
Well,
Asks-
it's gonna change a smidge. It'll be,
Okay.
County School District One Board of Trustees ask our staff to continue to.
Okay, okay, we got that. Next paragraph is the same, and then the next paragraph would say, ask our community to be active in our schools.
Yes,
By.
by.
And then the next, those two bullets will change to communicating and offering.
Okay, all right. And I think the last paragraph, we decided it was just going to stay the same as the original.
It's gonna take out pledge two,
Mhm.
but then leave the other blue additions.
Okay,
Is that correct?
Remind our students. Yeah.
okay. And then the last bullet, we will partner with, can keep that
Yes.
as that
Mhm.
is.
Yes.
Okay,
Ms. Garris, are those the changes that you had also
Yes,
sent?
they are.
That's
Mhm.
consistent with what you have?
Yes.
Dr. Guyton, Dr. Powers, is that what you had? Okay. All right, so are we're gonna suspend the vote and then?
Well, actually, I would, since we've already have full
Reviewed it?
clarity, I'll withdraw
Okay,
the
all right.
motion so that we can vote.
Okay, so did everybody follow along with that? All right, so I guess, do we need,
You have a motion and a second, and now you have a motion and a
She withdrew her motion.
she withdrew her motion.
Okay.
So do we need we need a motion for the new document? Okay.
So, Madam Chair, I move that we make the adapted changes that we just discussed by Ms. Holliday and as the new resolution moving forward.
Thank you, Dr. Powers. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Board, we have a motion to approve the resolution as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries.